But this is like what a part of the process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do I wear the leather wallies or the suede? Like stuff like that, right? And I see that in my kids. Like they zone in on things that nobody else is really gonna care about. It's
Yeah.
a personal thing, you know. And so, and all of them are their weaknesses would be like the self stuff. Like if they fall short of a goal, if they don't make a certain team, if they don't get picked for certain things,
Gotcha.
it'll bother them.
They too hard on themselves.
Very hard on themselves, and like that's something I deal with a lot that I still struggle with to this day.
Well, what's the thing that you're working on now as a father? Because I see you now, and again, it's dope to have that span of time. We had to span of time, and we making the most of reconnecting.
Yeah.
But what's Marty working on now? The thing that you're aware of that will serve you and serve your sons, for your future and theirs. What's that fatherhood thing that you're still trying to get right? Or I mean, you said just vain, so I don't know if you're perfect in all regards.
Not all regards. God alone is perfect, and
Right.
I know that striving after perfection is,
Silly.
it's silly.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, when I ask myself if I was perfect, how much of an a-hole would I be?
That
Because
part.
everything would annoy me if I was perfect.
Or if you're a Virgo.
Same. It's pretty much the same
Yeah,
thing.
pretty much.
Yeah, you don't.
Speaking from a place of pain.
They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend.
Let's get it. Welcome to the Dear Son Show. We have conversations through the lens of fatherhood. It's for fathers, those with fathers, and the fatherless, so nobody's left out. These are the conversations I want my sons to access as they mature through life and become men, so no topics off limits. As you can clearly see, I got a guest on the show tonight. Very excited about this. Martez Gurley-El, welcome to the Dear Son Show. How are you, my brother?
All is well, man. It's a pleasure and a blessing to be here, brother. How you doing?
Man, I'm great, man. The people will probably say I'm upbeat on this one, man, because I'm really interested in having this conversation, man. It's like we talked about before we got started. We know each other, but we really don't know each other now, right? Because we grew up in a very familiar place, families connected, and then people go to different ways in life, and our paths crossed again. So I'm interested in catching up to see what's going on, man. But you look well, my brother.
You too, man.
Appreciate that, man. I didn't drop a few, you know what I mean? Well, you didn't know. I was pushing 300 at one time, but
Okay.
bro got it down. I see you in the gym.
Yeah.
Getting right?
I'm in the home gym.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I used to go hard in the gym, weights and all that kind of stuff. Now it's about, joint health and blood flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, something quick, 20 minutes a day, thanks to Graylin Kimbrough.
Dope. So oriented people, man, we like to understand what your family dynamic is now, and let's start there, and then we'll kind of, just walk through your fatherhood journey, man. I know some twists and turns that we'll get to it, but what's your family dynamic right now?
All right. I'm married. It's going to be 10 years next year.
Congrats.
So we just hit 9 years strong. It was 5 years of that I was away.
Okay.
Right? Made some poor business decisions. We've been together 14 years, but the marriage like 9. And so it went through its ups and downs, and like any relationship. I live alone right now. She's in the military, but come the end of November, we'll be back together again. I'm going to relocate to Connecticut, get that together, and then transfer in the summer. So, it's a mature situation.
Yeah.
We've had some ups and downs, mostly because of the decisions that I made. That's what the lesson in fatherhood is choices and consequences.
There's not one without the other.
Right. And not all consequences are bad, but they're
Right.
going to be consequences.
Yeah.
This is my third marriage.
Gotcha.
Yes, my third marriage. I started my first back in 1997. Childhood sweetheart. We had a son. We're together for a few years after the marriage. But I still made poor decisions. I was young. I felt invincible. 20s, that That whole fast money, she wasn't with that, you know. Gave me the ultimatum. I didn't understand ultimatums back then. And, you know, that killed that. Second situation, 9 years. Again, me being hard headed. Same poor decisions, different relationship, same outcome. You know what I mean? All pertaining to money, materialism.
Right.
You know, the pursuit of, you know, those things.
Yeah.
So, and we still good though. I have all my exes on Facebook. We're all friends. We all visible. It's all good. I'm the best ex in the world.
The best ex in the world.
In the world, no complications. You know, it's all good because we always had great friendships.
Yeah.
I just had to go through certain things.
Right.
You know, relationship wise, I was spoiled. I'm an only child. Bunch of women in the family. You know, understand. You know what it is, man.
Yeah, man.
I could never do wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of people outside the family don't see that. So.
So let's walk it back, man. We'll
Okay.
get through the lessons that you learned in the iterations of marriage and relationships. But let's start with your childhood, man. You said you were only child. Let's talk about those dynamics early. Mother and father in the picture, and like what was your relationship like with each of them? You know, we'll kind of pull that thread a little bit after that.
Yeah, we'll pull it. Like I said, but my mother and my father were childhood friends. My grandparents were friends. My great grandparents were friends. You know what it is. And so how I came about, it was pretty much two friends doing things that they wasn't supposed to do. You know, it was a oopsie, right? And that created some rifts because we're a highly religious family. Teen pregnancy back in the 70s was almost unheard of, especially in the church. So that was different. But growing up, though, it was all love.
Yeah.
My father, great relationship. That's my guy. My mother, she was young, so she had to learn parenting. You know, she was just young, and so she couldn't teach me things that she didn't know, especially about being a boy. Did the best she could, private school all the way through. She did the best she could. And I can't even give her any pointers what she could have done differently because she was a teenager.
Right.
You know, looking back, I'm like, man, I couldn't imagine it.
Yeah. And the reality is, I mean, whether you're a teenager, whether you're 20s or your 30s, children are watching their parents grow up.
Right.
Parents ain't got it all figured out.
Yeah.
And we rarely realize that until we're actually parents with kids that are looking at us through a lens of, you know, our imperfections to a degree.
Right.
What was the interaction like with your dad? Was he? You mentioned that it was a riff and there was some ripples to that, but how much access did you have to him or he to you growing up?
Like small, I can't, he was in the military too. And so it was hit or miss because he remarried. He has, I have two brothers on my father's side. My mother only had me. So, you know, I have two brothers and he has a daughter. My father's, wow, he's doing his thing,
Yeah.
right? But we never had a bad situation. You know, it was always, that's my dad. So
Yeah.
it was cool. It was more conversational, never any discipline. And a lot of that comes from, it was some trauma on my father's side, dealing with my uncle and my grandfather. You know, it was, it ended up badly, you know. And so I think from that experience, watching his brother and his dad go through that, it kept him from being overly disciplinarian with me, right? And so I kind of got it, actually. Even I was like 10 years old when it happened. My uncle killed my grandfather when I was 10.
Whoa, that was more than a speed bump.
It was, that was kind of fast.
Yeah, let's reframe that.
Okay.
You said your uncle killed your grandfather.
Yeah. That in his house on a Sabbath.
That's on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
What age were you?
10. Oh, 9, 10.
9, 10? Mm-hmm. Did you even know how to process that?
No, not at all. And we never had the conversation until much later. And that was my guy. See, you know, with his children, he was a father back in the day, you know, like iron hand. There was no compassion. There was no understanding. Those guys were different. But to his grandchildren, that was my granddad. Like, I'd sit on his lap, we talk, we laugh, watch the cars go by, all that kind of stuff. And so when it happened, it was trauma, you know? And, you know, it was never a conversation, really. Never, like, how you doing?
Right.
That never happened.
At any point after that, or even at whatever stage in life, have you kind of unpacked what that did to you, seeing that desensitized, or I'm like, what have you processed it? I'm not asking it in an insensitive way, and I'll give you some context. Like, not saying that they're parallel, but my dad's dad died when I think my dad was 19 or 20. He was in the military, came home, buried his dad, and went back.
Right.
And I asked him, had he ever mourned or processed it? This was last year that we had this conversation. He said no.
Right.
So that's 50 years or so. So I'm not asking in an insensitive way.
I get it.
Have you processed it? But have you, like, I don't know another way to ask it. Like, have you processed it as an adult and what impact that may have had?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on it because I had to. I spent a lot of time in my head, and that's why I get to know myself because I'm in my thoughts a lot. And around that same time, my other grandfather passed too, and so at 10 years old, both my grandfathers and my favorite great aunt, like they were all dying. These were like the older people who I really connected with. One from supposed to be a heart attack. I don't know if it was a heart attack. He was 45. I think it might have been something else. I don't know. That was the story I got.
Gotcha.
And then, with my uncle, my grandfather, and then my aunt, she had a surgery that went bad. She died, right?
Wow.
So this is all young, before 10 years old, right? And so as I grew up, I'm seeing how is it so easy for me to cut people off or to move away from relationships because those people were taken from me so suddenly without explanation. And so I processed the fact that at any time, anyone that's close to me can leave my life forever.
So you lived a guarded life.
That's a good word, guarded.
Yeah.
It's a switch,
That's interesting. It's a switch that you control, or the situation, depending on the situation, that switch gets flipped.
Yeah, I can control it, definitely. Because I've said too many times in life since then, I thought that we were better than that. I've said it a lot of times. And so I've learned, like, it's no point in saying that or believing that. And so, I still give people the benefit of the doubt, but with relationships, I understand that, things happen. People change, people come, they go,
So with the moniker that we set out with, the greatest the greatest ex in the world, kind of in jest, but I mean there's something to that, to being a great to being mature enough to have a relationship after the relationship.
Right.
Do you think that switch, controlling that switch, had anything to do with your first two marriages?
I would say absolutely. Because in the first one, years later, she told me that she just wanted me to chase her, right? She just wanted me to convince her that I wanted to be in a relationship. And I didn't understand that concept at all. And we had been together since child. I was her first, and so when that came about, I really didn't know, and that was my heart. I still got a place,
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that early trauma definitely affected future relationships. Because like I said, I never talked about certain things.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff growing up, it's like you think that that's normal.
True. Like what we see, we normalize, and then not until we see something different do we think differently of it.
compare. Yeah.
How do you think that? So let's talk about son number one, because I want to understand how that switch impacted one. You had four sons, right?
4 sons.
Yeah. You're maturing. You're understanding things. Being a father introduces a man to himself. I heard somebody say that, so I'm
Yeah.
not taking credit. But
That's a good one.
one of the events that introduces a man to himself. So what was that first introduction like? Let's walk through it. So father of 4 you versus father of 1 you. And we'll
Right.
walk through them incrementally. Father of the first son, where were you in life?
I was 23 years old. Well, 22. Yeah, 1997 when she conceived. And so at that particular time, I was still probably left leg knee deep in the game. It's 22, it's an era. And so when she got pregnant, it was a good feeling. It was all good. I never thought about being a father before. And so it was with her. It was a good feeling. So as I raised them in a way that I was familiar with, the way that I saw myself and my cousins being raised on just how to be a boy. You know, it's being a boy. We don't cry. We don't talk about emotions. You know, we tough. Like, man, you tough. You know what I mean? Either you
Man up.
tough or you a victim.
Right.
And we don't raise victims. And so I brought him up in that way, and he grew up fast. I'm like, because he always wanted to be with me. I'm like, once you can put your jacket and your shoes on, you can ride with me.
Gotcha.
You know, start using the bathroom. And so he grew up so fast, intelligent guy.
Now, did he see the life that you were living at that time, or was he kind of shielded from that?
He was kind of shielded, even though he was small. He was really small, but I had him in places. He was with me all the time.
Gotcha.
Like, he was with me in places where he shouldn't have been, where I shouldn't have been. But that was my way of being with my son. And so as he got older, our relationship became more of a camaraderie. We could talk about anything. You know, and so by the time he was 15, 16, everything's on the table. Like, he didn't count 100 grand so many times. Like, it's nothing for him.
Yeah.
You know, he saw those kind of things. And so as he transitioned into life, I'm transitioning out of that life. And so I'm like, you know, that's not the way anymore.
Yeah.
And so I know how he processed that. It was contradictory information. Like,
I'm glad you said that, because I want to get inside your mind a little bit. You said you had him in places that he shouldn't have been in and you shouldn't have been in, but because you wanted him always around you,
yeah.
that was like a byproduct. So
Right.
were you aware of that conflict at the time?
Not for real. Listen, I'm with one of my favorite cousins. He's like, listen, man, you got to take him home. What you doing? You got him in the spot.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And I'm sorry, because it's not about glorifying it, but like there are people that are in that place in life, whether they're 20, 30, or 40, that at that age, that stage of maturity, where they still either haven't dealt with that contradiction and they still living that life. And I wanted to maybe whoever it reaches to understand, like, you got to come to grips with that. Like,
Yeah.
it's understanding what love is, and love protects, right? And sometimes we think that what we're doing is out of love, and it's not really serving us, let alone serving
Other people.
children that can't make that decision.
Exactly.
For
And
themselves.
like you talk about love, it has to be a self-love. Because in that place, to function in that place and in that space of criminality in the game, there is not much self-love.
Right.
We try to buy that love. We try to, you know, but it's mostly pain. You know, especially in the streets or whatever. It's no love there. We'll
Right.
call love somebody giving me more drugs than I paid for.
Wow.
You know, that's love. Like, show me some love. Like, but it's no love involved in that. It's all pain. It's all destruction. And so, for a father to say, I love my son and I love him more than I love myself, so I'm not going to put him in that situation. Where is the love? So, you know, all those conversations. You know, as I developed and I started studying more and getting more familiar with myself and the society and things that I was actually doing, you know, I shifted away from that. But the seeds had already been planted, and those seeds grew.
Yeah.
And,
Go
go ahead. No.
I don't want to move off of it if you're not ready. I wanted the son number 2, trying to pinpoint where it changes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Son number 2 is changing because it's like 7 years in between them two.
Got it.
And so son number 2 was conceived 2 weeks before I caught that case where I met Vic.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was in the car with me. So I'm going to make a play. I'm selling marijuana back then. And guy wanted to buy a couple pounds from me. And I'm like, all right. I'm telling her, yo, get that together for me. She's like, you're not going to do that. You never move like that during the daytime. She's thinking I'm going to see another female.
Wow.
And she jumps in the car. And just so happens it was a setup. And just so happens we find out that she was 2 weeks pregnant at the time. And so I'd never come home again. I didn't get
Wow.
a bond. I'm on a federal marijuana case. I go up, and this whole time she's pregnant. She has my junior. She's coming to see me when he was on my lap, you know,
Wow.
crusher. And so I'm like, man, I'm missing my child's birth, man. It's my junior too. So that whole time, it was me deconstructing everything that I had adapted before that. You know, I love selling marijuana. I loved it. I can't even put a code on it. But it cost me everything that I really I cherished. And so with him, when I came home, he was 3. I came home, he was 3 years old, and we developed a good relationship. He knew me because he saw me in visits. She came to see
Yeah.
me a lot. Like when Vic was talking about the visits, I'm like, man, she 5 minutes late. Visits started. I'm expecting them to be there.
Right.
And I was a spoiled grown man, right? So me and Marty got a good relationship. I was I was changing, but I hadn't quite changed, because some of that residue was still there.
Yeah. Was it somebody that you knew lined you up, or like did you see it coming? She felt like you should make that move, but was there anything? Was the day off for you too?
Well, the day was off because I didn't move like that.
Gotcha.
During the daytime, she thought I was creeping because that
Gotcha.
wasn't my normal pattern.
Right.
It was a Wednesday during the daytime, and I'm driving to Gloucester, right? And because he was from Lancaster County, it's the country
Don't
over there.
belong over there.
Yeah. Anyway, right? But This is 2004. I'm getting like 2,600 pounds from Reggie back then. I mean, yeah. So it was crazy.
Yeah.
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 So anyway, that's what that was. I was just greedy. And matter of fact, I called him. This is the crazy part about it, because I had so many. I'm going through my phone. I get down to the V's. I'm running through them. His name was Vincent, right? I'm gonna say, but I get down to the V's, and he was like, "All right, bet."
Gotcha.
And it was the lineup. So yeah, I knew him. I met him through a cousin. It was all bad, and that's why when people say it's just weed, it's not just weed.
And that's why. And again, we're not laughing because it's not serious.
Yeah.
For me, I'm laughing in the sense of the from too, because I see what you are now.
Right.
Not laughing at it, making light of
Oh,
it
yeah,
at all. And I
no,
don't think you're doing that. I just want to be clear for
Right.
the people that are watching this. But this is the process. This is the process that you chose, or part of it chose you. Mm-hmm. So what's the span of time? What's the gap between number 2 and number 3?
All right, so in 2008, we conceived. We're married. I'm clean. I'm in school. I'm working on this medical assisting degree. I'm driving trucks. I'm just a regular guy, getting through paper. So it's 3 years difference in between them. Malachi is premature. He's born in December. He's supposed to be born in like March, April. So he came early. He was a little guy. NICU. Get off work, go to school. After school, NICU every day. And then we separate. She's having postpartum. I didn't even understand what postpartum was at the time. It's a real thing.
Very.
So I really encourage men, women to be patient, to be understanding, to understand that process. I didn't have an understanding of it.
Let's let that sink in, because that's a realization that conversation that me and my wife had either last year or the year before. We never talked about it. Now, so we're 5 kids in,
Right.
16 years into marriage, never talked about postpartum because of my ignorance.
Right.
I didn't know to look for. I didn't know what it meant. When I saw things being a little, what I consider off, I thought that meant just give a space.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not necessarily have a meaningful conversation about not even how I can fix it, but I am sensitive to you going through this thing.
Yeah.
So I missed it. So that's the
That's the takeaway.
that's the message. We can't understand it.
No.
And just calling them however you want to frame it, like in an insensitive manner. I don't even want to say the C word,
Right.
but being dismissive of it, I guess that's a better way to put it.
That's a better way.
Nah, man, you gotta have those conversations. I don't care if you're like, that's the mother of your child. So whether the relationship endures the child or not, I mean, y'all are connected.
Right.
And like that's an expectation that we got to set as men, as we help other men, that there's some things you got to be aware of, man. And that's women ought to be protected.
Yeah.
That's a very vulnerable time in their life. And I haven't talked to all women, but I haven't met a woman's perspective that doesn't suggest otherwise. So, man, use your words, bro.
Use your words,
Let's think
yeah.
about them.
And I really encourage parenting classes before the baby comes, to get some perspective, to network with other fathers, and to have the woman network with other women, who have gone through similar things. Because like I said, I had no clue of what it was. And to the extent that it could go, and so it caused rifts.
Yeah.
And in my immaturity, I went outside of the relationship, and so things kind of unraveled. Then it took a long time for us to heal, but to this day we're good. You know,
Right.
that's my friend. It's always love there. But at that particular time, I couldn't handle the situation. It was I dropped the ball on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. You know, that's kind of like how that went.
Son number 3 to son number 4. What's that gap?
It's 4 years. Well, three and some change. December of '08 till April of 12. It was a lot of. That was probably my fastest growth spurt because I started the business in 2011. I was working in the doctor's office. I finished school, got my degree, was back in for RN, and one day I'm in the store. I'm going to buy a product, and something just says you could sell that. The voice, I've heard it many times since, but that was the first time, and I pursued it with no distraction. I pursued it, and I went from buying it to supplying that very store that I bought that product from. And so, it's so funny. Like the day I came back from the hospital, April 2nd was the day my incorporation papers came back. So my son and my company have the exact same birthday.
Wow.
April 2nd, 2012. And so during that process, I moved to California that June, and I hadn't worked for anybody since then. When I went to California, it was 100% me. And so the lifestyle was just different. It was just a different me because I was faced with different challenges. I was in a different bracket, you know, military spouse now, so it just put me in a different lane.
Yeah.
So that growth as a parent as well, you know, like my first son, I spanked him. I hadn't spanked any of my other children. You know, maybe one little pop, but
Yeah.
never any kind of corporal whippings, none of that kind of craziness.
Yeah, we had in the Facebook group, we had a conversation about did whippings work, right? And I know people call them whoopings and all that. People probably looking at me funny in the Facebook group, but I want to call it what it was because it came from being whipped.
Whipped, yeah.
Right. And I don't think we come to grips with that because it's one of those things. Well, that's what was done to me.
Mm-hmm.
It must be how to do it. But I'm the same way, man. I couldn't. Well, I had girls first,
Right.
so
There's
I
no way.
became soft, and exactly no way. Because, and I've said it. I'm going to keep saying it. I can't have my daughters or my wife thinking that physical abuse is the way to adjust their attitude
Right. No.
or their behavior.
Yeah. No.
Because if your daddy did it,
You expect
Right.
everybody else to do it.
yeah, in
And
terms
more.
of being normalized, and that
Yeah.
wasn't a laugh at it. Just
Yeah, and I saw that poll, and I went to weigh in like to add it. I went back and forth because I saw it a couple times in my feed. I didn't touch it though because I've had similar conversations, mostly with older people. Not no ageism, but a lot of them just not going to see
It's
it
generations,
because
yeah.
that's the fix it. You need to whip it, blah 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 blah. You know,
Yeah.
that's always the fix all. But what about the conversation? You know, why are you thinking this way? Why did you behave that way? Where'd you get that from? Like,
Right.
Let's talk it through.
Right.
And those conversations will last more than me lashing out my frustrations
exactly.
and my inability to control my emotions onto my child. And so, yeah, I got away from it.
I want to go back to your business. Your tone changed a little bit when you said you can. I saw that product and realized I'm buying to sell, and I'd rather sell.
Yeah.
What was that like the start of identifying your purpose, or is that even remotely part of your purpose?
Remotely, it was a paradigm shift from consumer to producer supplier, right? And I learned that that's my role, is to supply. Even in the marijuana trade, you know, I was a wholesale guy, I sold weight,
Yeah.
right? So it was the same thing. My first product was a male enhancement product. You know,
I remember.
yeah, man. I was a sex pill king of the East
I remember
Coast.
seeing that.
Yeah, that was my thing.
Unapologetically, get this.
Yeah, right.
Get you right.
Get you right. You know, and most guys be like, man, I'm straight. All right, I'm not supplying you. I'm supplying that store you go to on the low.
It's all the rave now.
Yeah,
Most of 'em- Anyhow.
Yeah, I digress. And so that was my introduction to import export, because I developed those relationships. I got to get it from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of just segued into other things, which led me to IE Sports, the apparel business. The sex pills came first, then the hair. I'm in the shower one day because I'm trying to get out of the sex pill game because I got my money up. Like
Gotcha.
it was crazy. And so I'm talking to my grandma one day, Miss Clark. She's like, "What you doing? You still in school?" I'm like, "Nah, grandma, I'm not in school no more. I started a business." "What's your business?" Long pause, pregnant pause, right? So I'm like, and so then I'm like, I gotta find something else, right?
Yo, to be a fly on the wall, man. I know who he's talking about, and I hear the tone.
Yeah,
I almost feel like a pluck on the back of your head. Or
right,
something was going to follow right after
man,
through the fold.
right,
That's
right.
great, and I'm glad you kind of drew the parallel that I was moving to about your role, right? And I'm as I'm processing, I'm like, does this give him the same high, pun intended or
Hi,
not,
yeah,
the same high as facilitating others high,
yeah,
right? Was that same principles? And some people don't like it, like my life wasn't street life. I understand it, but I understand corporate, and there's some very similar principles.
yeah. It's all
So
the same.
what they say about if you can do this, you can run an office. You
Yeah,
probably can. I
yeah,
would
you
have loved to
definitely
have
can.
some of those skill sets in my team.
Right.
But did it give you
It was a
that same feeling, that rush?
it was a higher rush because the rush from selling drugs or whatever, you still have to hide, and so it's the rush,
Ah,
but you still can't flaunt. You still, like, back in it, you want to stay low, but this one, and it's no limit because every gas station in America
right,
sells these products,
right.
and I got the numbers, so it doesn't matter where I am. I come in with a product. I'm gonna give you samples. They're gonna love me because you can come back and buy from me off the sample money that you made.
Yeah,
It was a win-win, and so I'm a workaholic, and that's the thing about being a workaholic is like you don't reach lows, you reach highs because everything you put in reaps benefits. So it's a different type of addiction. I'm not stealing and robbing and ducking and dodging, like I'm producing, and so I get more money out. Now I have unlimited resources, right? I can buy as much poison as I want. I can afford it. I can drink the best whiskey. I can smoke the best cigars. I can do the things that I want to do, and I can look high. I can look the part. I can feel the part, and I don't have to hide. Being a workaholic, it's crazy.
yeah,
And so back to your question, it was a bigger rush, and it's like all the skills are transferable. It's supply and demand,
yeah.
and so if I could sell, drugs or whatever, I could sell anything else because you just replace the product. You still have to have customer relations. You still have to beat the competition. You have to offer the highest, quality product for the best possible price.
What phase of your life taught you the most about fatherhood?
I would say this phase that I'm in now, my oldest son is almost 25. My youngest son is 10, 13, 17, 24. And I'm 47. So where I am, I've gone fast my entire life, fast out the gate. And so now that I can sit back, I can calculate my moves, and I can really see myself in all of them at those phases. So I don't get upset. Like when I was young, it used to make me mad when they would do certain things. Like, I told you this 10 times, you still doing it.
Right.
I don't get upset anymore with them. It's more of a patient thing. I talk them through it. I'll probably say something funny, like, my son's like he's in fifth grade and he's upset he didn't make the travel basketball team, but he's a model. I'm like, what do you rather do, make money or get out here and play games? So, I put things in perspective for
Right.
them so they can see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because like when you're 16, 17, it's all right then. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I gotta be the coolest.
Yeah.
I'm like, when you're 25, the things you did at 17 is not gonna seem cool.
Yeah. Well, for each son, which of your traits is the most dominant?
Um, I would say for all of them, vanity and like self-confidence. Like they're all cocky. Like
The- Go ahead.
yeah,
They it almost sounded oxymoronic. I don't know if that's a word, but you said vanity and self confidence. But I guess are they different sides of the same coin?
yeah, because it's a strength and a weakness. Like I'm gonna say the other day, this is how ridiculous I could be.
Let's hear
Right.
it.
I'm getting dressed and I'm trying to match my undershirt with the horse on my shirt. Right. I'm like, nobody's gonna care if my T-shirt matches the horse with my shirt or not. But this is like what a part of the process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do I wear the leather wallies or the suede, like stuff like that, right? And I see that in my kids, like they zone in on things that nobody else is really gonna care about. It's
Yeah.
a personal thing, you know. And so, and all of them are their weaknesses would be like the self stuff, like if they fall short of a goal, if they don't make a certain team, if they don't get picked for certain things,
Gotcha.
it'll bother them.
They too hard on themselves.
Very hard on themselves, and like that's something I deal with a lot that I still struggle with to this day.
Well, what's the thing that you're working on now as a father? Because I see you now, and again, it's dope to have that span of time. We had to span of time, and we making the most of reconnecting.
Yeah.
But what's Marty working on now? The thing that you're aware of that will serve you and serve your sons. For your future and theirs. What's that fatherhood thing that you're still trying to get right? Or I mean, you said you're vain, so I don't know if you're perfect in all regards.
Not all regards. God alone is perfect, and
Right.
I know that striving after perfection is,
Silly.
it's silly.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, when I ask myself if I was perfect, how much of an a-hole would I be?
That
Because
part.
everything would annoy me if I was perfect.
Or if you're a Virgo.
Same. It's pretty much the same
Yeah,
thing.
pretty much.
Yeah, you don't.
Speaking from a place of pain.
Yes, perfectly in pain all the time. So I'm just really just working on just smoothing it out because I still have some rough edges. I don't angry with my children, but sometimes I get upset with the process because I'm still learning hard lessons, and all my lessons I pay for. And I'm like, I've come to grips with that, and that's why
Wow.
when I make decisions, I know that it's gonna cost me if because I have a strong moral code,
Yeah.
principles and ways of actions, and so if I deviate from that, it's gonna cost me
Yeah.
financially.
I've always said in life you can learn the lesson to take the lesson. The latter is more painful. And that's part of why we had these conversations is giving information from a place of experience. And like we were talking before, it sometimes the best experience is often somebody else's,
Somebody else's,
right?
yeah.
So you don't have to run into those same walls, man. What do you want your sons to what do you want to be the most? Okay, let me frame it. Your legacy, because I don't like to speak expiration, but what do you want your sons to know is important, or what do you want the most important thing about you to be to your sons? What do you want them to? My dad was, and this is important.
I wanted to know that dad was a humanitarian. That he was intellectual, but he wasn't a pushover. And because I've reinvented myself so many times, I don't want them to feel like they have to be in a box, that there's a certain way to be.
Right.
There's no one way to be a so-called, American, right? There's many different ways to be an American. There's many different ways to be a man. We're not all boxers.
Right.
We're not all carpenters. We're not all musicians. And so we find our strengths and we work our strengths and we outsource our weaknesses.
Gotcha.
And so I just want them to know that they can be, who they are and to be comfortable with themselves. I've become comfortable with myself and my decisions
Yeah.
and my consequences.
Gotcha, man. As we wrap, man, this has been great for me. I know I'm gonna watch it back and get a lot more than just trying to process everything in the moment. I want to make sure that the audience understands what ventures you have going right now, your business, the work you do in the community. So the floor is yours to highlight those things because shared platform, and I want people to know that there are black men out here doing excellent stuff in an excellent way. So let's hear it.
For sure. I'm a member of, the international community. I've been in import-export since 2011. I specialize in textiles, and so mostly apparel, sports apparel, uniforms, gloves. It's a wide range of things. We do a lot of support for small businesses.
Gotcha.
We're not a brand. We manufacture for brands, and so if a person has a clothing line, they want to add leather or track wear or outerwear, whatever it may be to their line, we can produce it. Um, Businesses, we do a lot of business stuff. And as far as the community goes, I collaborate with a lot of nonprofits, um, and I'm a director for a nonprofit for programs. Milan's Project. It's about raising awareness about violence towards teens with ADHD and
Wow.
autism. For my cousin Milan, who passed over a weed deal going bad.
Wow.
And so we really advocate a lot for conflict resolution,
Right.
Anti-violence. Work with the Mobile Way, Give Back to the Block, Watch Me Grow, different community groups, Friendship Lottery, shout out
That's my guy
Tracy.
Trey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, good guy, man. So, the 7 cities, and up in Richmond as well, networking. So yeah, I just try to do my part.
Gotcha.
Just do my part. I can't do it all. I kind of, like I was telling you earlier, I got sidetracked. I volunteered countless hours from like May until September. And I was like, wait a minute, I got to put some of this back because it costs.
Yeah.
The love is free, but the gas costs money.
Say that.
You know what I mean?
Say that.
And so I dialed back in, just saving, working, putting things together, focusing on my stuff. We talked about the contracts and going after merchandising,
Yeah,
licensing
yeah.
agreements. So it's cool. I'm at a good place. I've been sober almost 6 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a challenge. It's not all easy.
Right.
But I learned to process my thoughts more. I could think my way through a lot of things that I may have just numbed the pain before or just deal with it.
Right.
And I'm seeking counseling. So that's another thing.
I love it.
Yeah, I really encourage people. The only reason I didn't start right now is because I'm moving in like 3 weeks. I didn't want to start that relationship and restart. So that's definitely something I look forward to. This event gets some of that childhood trauma off my
Gotta
chest.
talk it out.
Yeah, I talk it out,
It's
man.
gotta come out.
Yeah, I appreciate your platform too.
Cool, man. I appreciate your support, man. I enjoyed the conversation on camera, off camera. Hopefully, it facilitates some more conversations where we can support each other in a real meaningful way, man. But on camera, I want to tell you I'm proud of you. I love you, Black man. I'm in your corner. Anything I can facilitate, hit me up, bro. At the very least, I'm going to be honest with you about what I can and can't do. So before we get out of here, I want to shout out the location. I'm on travel. I'm in VA, so that reference to 7 cities was about Virginia. But this is, what's the location? Stella Wine Company.
425 High Street, Portsmouth.
Yep, 425 High Street in Portsmouth. We appreciate them for letting us post up here. This has been a good one. So my folks, you know what to do. Get busy in the comments. If you're not following, if you're not subscribed, please adjust your life accordingly. That's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate you guys. God bless you. Peace.
Peace.
They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just pull it out and count for nothing when I'm feeling great. Give